Verse 8 delves deeper into the worship and adoration directed towards God in the heavenly throne room, providing a compelling depiction of ceaseless praise. The four living creatures, each having 6 wings, were full of eyes around and within. And they do not rest day or night, saying, "Holy, holy, holy, Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come." This verse, rich in symbolic imagery and theological depth, encapsulates the reverence and awe that is due to the Creator, offering profound insights for the believer. The description of the 4 living creatures, with each having 6 wings and being full of eyes around and within, is reminiscent of the seraphim described in Isaiah 6. The 6 wings signify readiness and swiftness in serving God, reflecting a posture of worship that is active and vigilant. The multitude of eyes symbolizes complete awareness and perception, indicating that these creatures are acutely conscious of God's holiness and majesty, seeing all aspects of His nature and works. This imagery portrays a state of constant readiness to respond to God's will, a reminder to believers of the importance of vigilance and awareness in our spiritual walk. The creature's declaration, "Holy, holy, holy, Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come," is a profound affirmation of God's absolute holiness and eternal sovereignty. The thrice-repeated "holy" emphasizes the supreme sanctity and otherness of God, setting Him apart from all of creation. This exclamation acknowledges God's ultimate authority over all time, past, present, and future, and His unchanging nature. For the believer, this acknowledgement of God's holiness and eternality is a call to worship Him with deep reverence and awe, recognizing His unparalleled greatness and the breadth of His dominion. The unceasing worship of the living creatures, they do not rest day or night, serves as a model for the believer's devotion. It illustrates that worship is not confined to moments or places, but is a continuous attitude of the heart and a lifestyle. This perpetual adoration is born out of a recognition of God's infinite worth and the joy of being in His presence. For believers, this is a call to cultivate a life of constant communion with God, allowing every action and thought to be an expression of worship and praise. Furthermore, the worship in heaven, as depicted in this verse, transcends time and is centered on the character of God. It reminds believers that our worship should be rooted in who God is, His holiness, power, and eternal nature, rather than in our circumstances or feelings. This perspective shifts the focus from self to God, encouraging a worship that is based on truth and reverence. The declaration of God as who was and is to come also speaks to the faithfulness and immutability of God. It offers comfort and hope to the believer, reassuring us of God's constant presence and unchanging nature. In a world of flux and uncertainty, the eternal sovereignty of God stands as a beacon of stability and assurance, grounding the believer's faith and hope. Verse 8 enriches our understanding of divine worship and the character of God. It challenges believers to a life of vigilant and perpetual worship, rooted in the recognition of God's holiness and sovereignty. This verse invites us to reflect on our approach to worship, encouraging us to cultivate a continuous awareness of God's presence and to respond to His majesty with reverence and adoration. As we meditate on the heavenly worship depicted in this passage, we are reminded of the privilege and duty we have to declare God's holiness and to live in constant acknowledgement of His lordship over all of creation and time.